Hello, everybody, and welcome to News Without Prejudice. We are so happy to have you join us this week. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing fantastic. We are approaching. Oh man, how many times have we done this now? We've done
Is this 4?
the 4th of the first season.
Yep.
But I think we're at like 10 total episodes or something, 11 total episodes or
Wow.
something like that.
11, I think.
Yeah, since our preseason, so it's been pretty crazy. I think where I want to get better, I'm still getting used to like talking. We're a video podcast, but even so. Talking to people and talking into a camera and or even an audio narrative setting that makes any sense is a skill that I have never come across before. I've gotten some pretty good feedback from those in my life who listen to our podcast.
Good.
Hello, Alexa.
Hi, Alexa.
but you know, and other people who we love and care for, as well as a couple of audience members. I've gotten some call outs on LinkedIn, which has been very fun.
Ooh, we love those.
Yeah, we're going to be switching to a little bit more content per week. We'll see how that shakes out. We were supposed to do a news segment on Wednesday, this last Wednesday, the 11th, and then I published the wrong episode. So our main story went up on on live on Wednesday, and then our news segment is going up on Friday. So it's going to be a little stale this week. I will correct next week. But I'm pretty excited to talk about a whole bunch of stuff today.
Yeah, should we dive into it?
Yes, hit me.
The very first thing I want to touch on this morning, last News Without Prejudice, we talked about a man who's going to be executed by firing squad unless the governor stepped in and commuted his sentence.
Did he step in?
He did not step
He did
in.
not.
Brad Sigmon was executed by firing squad for the first time in the U.S. in 15 years.
That story has the same energy as like someone who dies from the bubonic plague in 2024, or in the alternative, like the same sort of wow you get when you realize that Hans Zimmer did the score for Madagascar.
Wait, what?
Yeah, seriously, right?
I like to move it.
Yeah, exactly. The first Madagascar movie.
I had no clue.
Yeah, and Hans Zimmer. Well, I mean, you know, times were tougher back then before Interstellar. Oh man,
little sad to hear that for that man, that he wasn't just given life in prison instead. But you know, hopefully he's at peace. That's the best we can hope for.
And I'm sorry for the people who had to execute him.
Yeah, that must not have been a fun job by any means.
Could have been a better day at the office.
That's for sure.
What else is on the docket today?
So we are seeing significant pushback from Trump's slew of changes that he's been attempting to make so far this year. So I've got 4 whole stories that come into this. Number 1, 20 states plus DC are suing the Trump administration over the Department of Education layoffs. Approximately 1,300 DOE employees were fired. This lawsuit alleges that only Congress has the authority to make such changes, and New York Attorney General Letitia James says the cuts are reckless and illegal. Personally, I am happy to see this legal industry pushback.
I think, and it's so interesting because the Washington State WSBA Board of Governors on March 12th just put out a defiant JPEG. I posted about this on LinkedIn. They put out a defiant JPEG saying we support the rule of law, same energy as the ABA's statement they put out last month, and I think in February, February 20-something. And like the ABA, not a single one of the Board of Governors actually signed it and put their name on it. They just put the JPEG out on their social media, and then no one actually put their name on it, which to me makes the statements about as worthless.
Yeah, if you're not willing to actually sign this and back this up with your name against it.
Well, and that's what's so interesting, because in the laws in On Tyranny, the book we read from in the Nazification episode, one of the top lessons, the first lesson of defying fascism is don't obey in advance, which is to say, don't just roll over and let them do it because you can see where the train is heading. You're going to just make it easier for them to roll into town and do what they want.
Yeah, totally.
And that's sort of what the Democrats I see are doing right now. Is there's sort of this nervous
what do we do?
Yeah, during the State of the Union address, you know, some Democrats wore pink suits and others wore hats and others wore like a little false. They held up like teleprompter or like little paddles. Al Green got thrown out of chambers, and then 10 Democrats voted to censor him along with the Republicans.
Wow.
And it all paints a picture of a really fractious, a party that is more concerned with, you know, decorum and how it's been done than moving forward into something new.
Sure.
Especially since, what was I going to say? The now with a government shutdown looming, big story.
Yeah, we'll get onto that.
Chuck Schumer, I think, just said that he would be advancing Republicans' omnibus spending package. Republicans need 60 votes to advance the package because it needs to be filibuster proof. Now, the filibuster is an episode for a whole other time. Most people think it's where you stand up and you talk until you have to shit. That is not how it works. Most of the filibuster procedurally these days is just like a staffer just emails the caucus chair and it's dead.
Much simpler.
Dead. Well, much simpler, but the problem is it's too simple. Nothing can get done. And so basically everything needs to be done by 60 vote majority, and that makes these spending bills huge because everybody just asks for everything.
Yeah.
So in February, despite Doge's efforts, in February of 2025, we are now on track to spend $36 billion more than we did the year before in the month of February.
And who's surprised?
Yeah.
Not me.
No one is, and I think no one is really interested in what exactly is going on here, other than I am concerned that Republicans, or I should say specifically Trump, I don't want to say Republicans, really want a shutdown, because when you have a shutdown, the department chairs of each agency go through and they say who's essential and who's not, having Trump and Doge going through and rifling through and figuring out who's doing what, and then furloughing everybody and leaving all their loyalists as the only one in the building. I think that's a really dangerous opportunity for them.
Yeah, really dangerous. Agreed. Well, luckily there's a little bit more pushback going on here that I'm excited to report on.
Sure.
District Judge William Alsup has ordered the Trump administration to rehire thousands of probationary federal employees. These are specifically the ones that were fired on February 13th and 14th. It includes the Departments of Veteran Affairs, Agriculture, Defense, Energy, the Interior, and Treasury.
Nice.
Yeah.
What departments in DOD? What roles were those? Do we know?
I don't know the roles individually.
Okay, that's interesting because we'll see if they actually do it.
Yeah.
I think the Trump in the omnibus spending package currently on the floor to avert government shutdown in 2025. The last one was 35 days, the longest in history.
Yikes.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, there are provisions that basically expand executive power to allow Trump to install and remove tariffs. It expands his tariff powers, actually. It's one of the reasons why it's so upsetting that some Democrats are backing this.
Yeah, because that just allows him to gain even more power.
Well, because the last shutdown fight was a big centerpiece of it was the border wall, which was a deeply unpopular... we pick fights over these deeply unpopular policies. And then even today, Doge is still even deeply unpopular. Trump is deeply unpopular. He has the lowest approval rating right now of any president in history, except for him at this same point in his term. So
that's kind of funny.
Well, it's funny,
but he's only beating himself.
but it speaks to a political appointee that the political system that's really missing the mark.
Yeah, for sure. There's two more here.
Okay.
14 states are suing Musk and Doge over whether these federal mass firings were even constitutional and whether Musk actually had the power to act in that capacity.
Which circuit? I presume that's federal. So which circuit is it in?
District. I'm not sure which district it is off the top of my head.
Okay, got it.
It is District Judge Tanya Chutkan is the one in charge here.
Okay.
This judge ordered them to provide a list of all Doge employees, which I think is great because we don't know who half of these people are still, right? To produce all relevant documents and including any plans, expectations, and discussions of the layoff. So a judge has said, hey, if you want to keep this, you got to give me all your papers on why.
That's good. I think we need transparency. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, because Doge is famously put up giant numbers for savings and then amended them downwards and then not make any announcements about their corrections.
And then we're also already spending more money.
Yes. I mean, that's Congress's fault.
Sure.
And we want to be clear about that. The spending strings are firmly in the hands of Congress and no one else. Yeah, it's a very interesting time. Do we know when were dispositive pleadings just filed in the district court case?
Ooh, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but this is fresh. This just came out this week. And if I remember correctly, the judge gave Doge 7 days to comply with this and provide all the information.
And it's specifically suing Doge, or is it defending or suing OPM, the Office of Personnel Management?
The two articles that I read specified Musk and Doge. One of them also added Donald Trump, but the other didn't include Donald Trump's name.
Okay.
So that's the information we got here.
Okay, fair enough.
People are being sued. And onto our last story that I have of governmental pushback. Trump's executive order discriminating against the law giant Perkins Coie.
Coie,
thank you.
Yes.
So on March 6th, 2025, Trump announced an executive order that accuses the firm of, quote, dishonest and dangerous activity. And so I can't help but laugh at this one a little bit. District Judge Beryl Howell says that this order was clearly intended to punish the firm, and it probably violates their First, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights.
So did the judge put a temporary injunction?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to say that part.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
the judge has put a temporary block on because the firm filed a lawsuit, and so the judge is like, yeah, nope, you can't enforce this executive order.
Perkins Coie is one of they have headquarters right here in Seattle. They're a pretty large firm. They also do good work. Davis Wright Tremaine represents Amazon a lot. Perkins Coie represents a lot of public interest and impact litigation. So it's no surprise that the administration has chosen to target them. What's very interesting here, temporary injunctions, they require, generally speaking, to be granted, they have to the judge has to think that the matters before the court, that the petitioner asking for the temporary injunction will succeed on the merits at full disposition, that it's in the public interest to grant it, and also that there's irreparable harm. Those three things have to happen. So whenever you hear a court enter, some sort of block, it usually means that the case is very strong in favor of the person who granted it. Now, if a higher court, blocks the injunction, it blocks the block, or if the Supreme Court grants certiorari, it means Supreme Court agrees to hear a case. Supreme Court chooses which cases it hears. It hears only like a couple dozen a year out of the hundreds that petition for cert. Then who knows? With this political atmosphere at the Supreme Court, I'm very uncertain where this is going to go. Yeah. I emailed a few law professors, and half of them said, well, this might happen, and then the other half said, well, it might not. So the status of admin and jurisprudence is very up in the air right now.
For sure. And only time will tell. What news stories would you like to get into today?
I think I was interested to talk the government shutdown we already touched on. Yes. I'm very interested to know more about what is happening at the Department of Justice right now. This isn't so much a news story as it is commentary. I think the Department of Justice is in a crisis of conscience right now, especially with the people at the top who defeated basically Trump now runs a department that he was fighting against for a long time. I think the FBI is currently being run by Kash Patel. And the appointment of can you look up who the deputy director is? I forget his name. He was a podcaster, a podcasting gentleman. Deputy director of the FBI right now is generally considered a more important position for day-to-day operations at the FBI than the director, because the deputy director is generally a decorated field agent that oversees day-to-day operations and field work. And so one of the promises that Kash Patel and the Trump administration previously made, the Trump campaign made, was like, yes, we'll put Kash Patel in place, but we'll make everyone happy by making sure that the deputy director is an actual veteran of the agency. Dan Bongino, elected as deputy director, is very weird because it means that everyone overseeing it is mostly just podcasting personalities. And there is so much money in right-wing media right now, partly because that left-wing media feels like you're in school and right-wing media just feels like you're chopping up with your buddies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which on one hand is really cool. On the other hand is troublesome because the media landscape, other than the Midas Touch network, I think 8 out of 10 of the 10 biggest syndicated podcasts are all right-wing leaning. Ben Shapiro, The Daily Wire, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, people like that. And I think what's most important is keeping a weather eye for what's important to you.
Yeah, that's
and
for
also,
sure.
Send us stories, other things you want us to talk about, chat about, questions you might have about current events. Support for the podcast comes from Hemmat Law. If you need kick-ass attorneys or want to join a really cool team, please go to hemmatlaw.com, and we would very much love to speak with you more. Lindsey, anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up the news segment?
Just that I am glad that the state of Oklahoma is not using their state funds to buy Bibles. That's it. That's the last thing that I want. Thank goodness they're not.
The court blocked state funding specifically set aside and earmarked for Bibles.
Yep.
We don't need to talk about why that's bad in the separation of church and state.
Yup. Y'all get it.
But it's not happening anymore, so thank you for reminding me about that. We will see you in just a couple days. This is a shorter segment, but we are segmenting 3 syndicated stories per week. 2 of them will be much smaller, and then one of them will be a 30 to 1 hour episode. We're still working out the publication schedule, but we will see you very soon.
Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.